This is Yaz Khan, the strongest 14-year-old player in history, yes, even stronger than Magnus, and Magnus Carlsen himself said that Yaz Khan is the strongest ever. He's approaching 2700 and hardly anyone can stop talking about him right now, especially after he ran into the world chess champion Gukesh. This was a mouth-watering encounter. There was even a bit of joking back and forth at the end that one of these guys taught the other a lesson, but it was all in good fun. We're going to dive in. Incredible game, result to come. And just before we do, I've been a bit absent this week. Basically, a family member is unwell right now, so I'm doing some back and forth to hospital trips. It's all rumbling on and everything, so yeah, quite difficult times right now, but I did want to get a video out. I enjoy making these. It's good to connect with you all, so yeah, thanks for your patience over the last couple of days or so, and I'll do my best in the coming days, weeks to keep getting these videos out. So thanks a lot. Let's dive in on the game here. Yaz was playing with the white pieces, opened with the king pawn, and we get a wonderful horse box. Goes by many other names. Do help me out. My brain's not all there today. This has a reputation for being one of the more boring openings. You're ideally trying to make the draw, it kind of looks like, right? Not the most ambitious, Roy Lopez or whatever. Gukesh now fights fire with fire. We saw Faustino play bishop d6, win a great game. I'll link that at the end. Now we see castles here. The board almost explodes because it's such a boring position. The Global Chess Committee even voted this one of their top 10 most boring positions. Great bunch of lads over there. We do enjoy seeing them. Knight d5's now on the board, and it creates a threat of taking the knight. Pawn takes, win a bishop. So you have to respond, and we see knight takes on d5. The pawn recaptures here. You're attacking that knight, but Gukesh punches right back with this pawn hitting the white knight. So it drops back to e1. Very passive, but there is a plan to redeploy. This knight now saves its bacon and hits the bishop on b5. Now retreating that bishop to a4 or c4 looks really natural to save the bishop pair, but then you run into pawn b5 supported by that knight, and the bishop's going to drop back, be taken anyway, or if it dropped to e2, very passive and could be taken anyway, and bishop b7's on the way. Black's got the space, the bishops. It's really not fun. So that's why the bishop didn't retreat. We saw pawn a4, now preparing bishop c4. This a4 move stops b5, so that's why we now see takes. Gukesh has won the bishops. Pawn to c ships looks to break out, start opening up the board, and Yaz fights back with the same type of move. This bishop retreats here, and now pawn d3. d4 was also playable, then en passant could have been considered. Here you do not want to be taking. Knight takes, and you're really helping white pick up some valuable tempos, opening the d file for the queen. So instead we saw the move pawn takes on d5. Now it leaves black with a structure that only a mother could love, but it starts to open up the board. We're going to see why that's so important. Queen b3, again no takes, you're just helping black. And then the pawn could be supported, f5, d5, who knows, open things up for the bishops. d6 was played, queen takes here, and now if you start with bishop e6, well, queen takes on e4 could be nice. Keep the d pawn here and prepare to go d4, lock out this bishop, maybe even you consider taking here. So black starts with rook e8, now this means white has to take here and bishop e6. I didn't really explore this. Looks very scary. Rook b8 is apparently very good. Queen a6. What does it say? Bishop c4. Okay, you're losing your rook. Well, an exchange. Here's the big problem. Because knight d3 is not possible, you lose a knight. So your queen gets a bit offside if you munch here. This is the better move. Now we see queen c7 to activate. Bishop e3, so you are getting rid of that double op combo, as Hikaru would say, which is good for white. And it also means the knight can stream into the game here, and you're not losing an exchange. The queen holds the knight. So we see bishop takes on b5, rook fe1. You can see why these positions often lead to draws. 3 minor pieces left the board, pawns are equal, pawn d5, but we don't see it here. There is life in the game. Queen d7 played, and knight rotating to b4. Of course you have to do something in the center. Pawn takes is played, and now this is the point of letting black just get the free hand here. You get the explosive pawn to c4. Now if you drop back to c6, it's playable, it's very drawish. So Gukesh plays bishop a4, keeping some life in the game. Queen a5's now on the board. Double hits that bishop. It slides into b3 and hits the pawn. And you have to be really careful with white, because if you play some of the natural moves, like let's say rook a c1, preparing to push, well then you can see a big drop in the bar. Rook a c8 is apparently a decent move, but this one makes a lot more human sense to me. Well, they're both human. But anyway, this hits a b pawn. Also, perhaps prepares bishop takes in some lines, because if rook takes, this one drops with check. And the knight now can't head to d5, or the queen drops on a5, it's unprotected. So black's got some real pressure here. No rook d1, pawn e3 could be coming. This is really good for black. So we didn't see any rook a c1, c5 also not ideal, similar ideas. Knight d5 is the best move. Keeps white in the game here. Bishop takes on c4 was played. Black is a pawn ahead, or even 2 pawns ahead in fact. So how's Yaz going to fight back here? Well, don't go knight c7 for the exchange. b6 then comes, takes the defender away, you lose a knight. The tactical point is this great move. Knight b6. A different kind of fork. 3 pieces in fact. So of course the pawn had to take. This is the game. Queen takes on a8. And the simple tactical point here is that if takes, rook recaptures check, and your only move is blocking with the queen, and then you get branked, back ranked, checkmated. So after takes, no rook takes, we saw bishop a6. Given the question mark, for reasons we're going to see, it's not all that obvious. Now Gukesh's big point here is that the queen is in jail. You hold the b pawn. This is all held together nicely. There's a threat to now take the queen because you've intercepted this connection. And if queen a7, your only square to run away, will queen c6, queen b5, both hold this b pawn, so they stop queen takes here. And they also just prepare to slowly squeeze white. Maybe you run f5, f4, e3. Maybe you take the b pawn here. I don't know. Didn't start clicking too deep because it didn't happen. But the queen's in jail, right? Massively offside. Big problem. So in the game, we saw the move of rook takes. But there was a stunning line here starting with rook a d1. And both players missed it. You hit the queen. She has to stay with the rook. Logical. But then there's this awesome move. Queen takes on e8 check. Well done if that one occurred to you. And the follow-up point is rook takes on e4. The queen can't do both jobs. Defend the e pawn and defend the back rank. Again, this would lead to a checkmate. So typical that tactics flow from a weakened king, right? In this case, there was no luft ever created. So we run back. This was an awesome, this move first, followed by this. Winning shot, winning idea, not seen. Takes on a6 was played. Pawn recaptures, queen takes. So black is a pawn ahead here. But Yaz is saying, okay, I've got enough to fight here. Let's cover my b pawn, blockade yours. Now we see rook e5 hitting that queen. She drops to b3. This gives a bit of luft here. And now h4 is one of the top moves apparently. So is queen c3, which was played by Yaz. But it leads to an endgame where it's hard to create tricks. The queens aren't on the board. Gukesh sets up the connect 4. He wins himself a day out at the tattoo parlour with Vishy Sir. What a lucky guy. Maybe they can go for a Subway afterwards or a few
mushrooms.
Now we see pawn f3 here. Of course you can't take or takes, so we saw king f7 to support the rook. This is how the game proceeded. Rook takes offers the trade. This is dead lost. King's going to march in and support the pawn, but long term you could even come round and eat this. White king's distracted here. You run this through. Black just has too many tempos. The extra pawn wins it. So we come back. No takes. Rook b1. The rook holds the pawn. The explosive c4 once more. King now marching around, and this is instructive. Pawn c5 is a threat. So if you carry on with king d7, white can liquidate these two pawns and then play the 2 versus 3 on the king side. And that is really difficult to win. I think theoretical draw, but black can push, try to win it with the extra pawns, see if white makes a mistake. Let's run back. Gukesh goes rook c6, stops pawn c5, king e2, both kings in the hunt here, rook b4 back, and here's the big problem. The black king's marching in to pressure the pawn and the rook. Yaz goes active, good policy, but even if he'd stayed put, king c5 is a bit of a killer. It then supports rook d4 as well. So this was played, must be a mouse slip. Surely you're going for the a7 square. Not how the game proceeded. This is what was played. Now rook a7. Okay, very strange. h5, rook c7 check. This one blocking. Again, takes. Totally lost. So we saw this. King takes the pawn. That's 2 to the good for Gukesh. And as you can see, he's about to get the job done. Here we saw resigns, because even if you carry on checking, the king can just hide on b6. And soon it's going to shepherd home this b pawn. The rook's nice and active, so's the king. The white king's even cut. And white can just never generate the counterplay fast enough over here. It's a lost endgame. This the position. 50 moves there. Great battle by both. Gukesh takes it home. And after the game he joked that he would teach Yaz a lesson. Well, exactly how it went was he was told that Yaz is 14 and he didn't realise. He said, oh, he's a bit younger. I guess then I can teach some chess lessons. But all very much in jest. Good humour. Nothing meant by it. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks very much for the support as always. And have a look at the video on screen in case you missed the incredible Faustino playing a game in this opening. Thanks a lot and see you soon. Cheers.